So I am Jeff Pressman.
I'm Chris Dolnack. Hi.
Hi. So I first want to reiterate, this session is to talk about the tactics that we used to produce a successful large trade show earlier this year and the findings that we had over the last couple of years that we thought would benefit all of you guys. We're not going to discuss the industry for which this trade show serves, and we request that we keep the conversation to what we all have in common, and that's to produce successful trade shows and conventions for each of our respective communities. Thanks.
Yeah, so a little background on the SHOT Show. The association started the SHOT Show back in 1979. First show was in St. Louis. We had 12,000 attendees and 49,000 square feet in space. Booth space has essentially been sold out at the show for quite some time. We've had wait lists of up to 1,000 exhibitors waiting for space to open up. And working with ConvExx has come up with some very creative ways for us to help expand the show, to provide like pop-up pavilions and supplier showcases and things like that, where we can get 300, 400, 500 folks off our wait list. But it still became very evident to us that we needed to do something to get these customers in. Because what would happen is we'd call them after being on the wait list for 3 years, they were out of business, or they lost interest, or they ran out of money. So we made the bold decision to eliminate entire categories that weren't core to our industry. They fit, but they weren't core. It's things like camping, fishing, boating, so we could get more core customers in. And then, of course, in 2021, we added Caesars Forum, which gave us another 150,000 net square feet. And coincidentally with that, during COVID, with civil unrest and everything else going on, uncertainty about the economy, our industry enjoyed a very robust 2 years in terms of sales.
So we were able to have our 2020 show in January, and then obviously we had to cancel the 21 show. We actually tried to have the 21 show. We had a full space selection in the midst of the lockdown in June of 20, and we went through planning process all through 2020, canceled the 21 show in November of 20. So in 22, though, we were able to finally add the Caesars Forum outdoor space. What's comical, kind of, about SHOT Show, the acronym has the word outdoor in it, yet we had no outdoor space since 2009. So finally, we have outdoor space where we actually did product demonstrations that we'd never been able to do before out on the plaza in a safe manner. We had, as Chris mentioned, more exhibit space in the ballrooms. One of the things we also did because of the situation, we did much tighter controls on our non-exhibiting manufacturers. Surprisingly, they all felt that it wasn't safe to go to the show and have a booth, yet they can get on a plane and go as visitors and walk the aisles. So we really didn't allow that to happen. We did limit some to 2 badges. They only are going to be able to do it for 2 years, and then they have to commit to exhibit or they can't come again, and that's for the whole company, not an individual. We significantly increased the price for those folks. We also had phone calls with every single one of them to basically talk to them about, why are you not exhibiting? Why are you coming? And you can only be here to basically see what the show's about. If you had exhibited in, let's say, 2020, you could not come to the show in 2022. Here you can see some statistics. Because of the expansion to Caesars Forum, we were able to significantly increase the size of the show from 660,000 square feet to over 800,000 square feet. And that is in spite of COVID and everything else, and also some other headwinds that Chris will talk about.
Yeah, so we canceled the show in November prior to the 21 show, but we learned a lot going through that. So barreling towards 2022, one of our largest exhibitors, board member company, essentially strong-armed us to give them significantly more space in April. Fast forward to October, they call us up and said, yeah, show's too expensive. We're not coming. So, and then made public statements on podcasts and whatnot that trade shows no longer had any value. We're going to go to DTC, and all that.
He also said that, and he started off the conversation saying that trade shows were basically a breeding ground for spreading COVID. And it was basically telling every exhibitor not to come.
Yeah. We don't miss him as a board member. And then, like magic, 2 days later, our most visited booth, as we learned through the EventBit near-field tracking wafers that we get from Merritt's, most visited booth, Anchor of Level 1 at the Venetian Expo, they pull out. The next day, another one pulls out. 6 large exhibitors pulled out that week. So,
fortunately, we were able to backfill. Exhibitors actually increased their space. That 15,000 square foot booth was filled up by one exhibitor and jumped at the chance to get that prime location in the big booth within a couple days.
And of course, COVID. Our customers have some interesting theories on COVID and how to deal with it, and masks. But Omicron did peak during those 2 weeks in January, and Nevada did maintain a mask mandate. So, and we'll share with you some of that information here in a minute.
So our first question that we're going to ask, and one of the first things we want to talk about, was our communication strategies. So I just want to ask what methods used over the last 2 years do you guys use to communicate with your community, with your exhibitors and attendees? Just want to find out what people did and what was successful.
Oh, wow.
So it's very interesting. One of the things that we obviously did all of the above as well. But one thing that we did was we essentially did away with emails. We realized everyone was just getting hit by emails. So Chris will talk about really what we did to talk to our audience the last couple of years.
So yeah, we went much more to a more personalized method of communication, whether it was text or Zoom calls, a lot of telephone calls. And then because of our relationship, being a trade association, ConvExx being a for-profit show organizer, we kept pretty much the relationship with the customer in terms of sales and things like that, although we do get a lot of customer service support from ConvExx. But having all the other insights that we got, like during COVID, Freeman doing the pulse surveys every 2 months, and it was spooky how accurate they were, with our customers. Really, really dead nuts on. We had started several years ago an exhibitor advisory council, and we gave it attention in fits and spurts. We didn't always get really candid feedback, like when we did get people together at the show or on a conference call. It was more like a love fest, for the show, which is all great, but you don't really learn anything from that. So we were doing some work with Robin Davis with Exhibitors Win, and she had a lot of good rapport with our exhibitors and was doing some other coaching we'll talk about. So we engaged Robin to take over our exhibitor advisory council. She had us do some changes with it, add people from different categories, smaller exhibitors, underserved exhibitors, and we started getting a lot of real feedback about things that we needed to do in order to move forward with the show and make it a better experience. And then we've had a formal Voice of the Customer program in our association for almost a decade. We have a cross-functional team. All departments are represented, so everyone from the person that answers the phone to people in finance who maybe talk to the customers about paying their bills or things like that. So we get a lot more customer insight and get a lot closer. But yeah, data's vital, but that's why I love, like, Mark Schaefer's a friend of mine. He's spoken at several of our conferences. but he always says the most human company wins. And I think that having that personalized relationship, so it's not an email, so that sales, customer service, our member services departments are all calling the customer, talking to the customer, and getting feedback, getting, what is it that they're thinking? What are their concerns? What are they worried about? What does success look like?
So Chris mentioned the COVID pulse surveys. This is one bit of information that we learned from these surveys that was consistent over the last 2 years, really since COVID started. We asked repeatedly, do you want to have us require masks? Do you want to require vaccinations? Now, you guys would imagine what our audience would say. We just assumed it would be 100% no masks, 100% no vaccination. That is not at all the case. It was really 1/3. A third wanted us to have a requirement, a third said no, and a third said we're coming no matter what. So we knew we were going to piss off a third of our audience no matter what we were going to do.
We were screwed.
We were just screwed. But one thing that we learned from this was ask your audience the question. Don't make any assumptions. You cannot make assumptions of what your community wants. Ask the question, even if you don't necessarily want to have the answer, but ask the question because that's something that they really appreciate from us, that we were asking them the question. And I think everyone was startled by the feedback that we got from this, given our audience. The other thing I want to bring up, because we had the consistency in the survey responses over the last 2 years, we kept our policies consistent throughout the process. So when we were planning for our 21 show in the midst of 2020, we put in our policies our place for regarding not only the masks and the vaccinations, but also our refund policies and what we were going to be allowing and not allowing. And we kept those consistent not only through the 21 show, but also through 22. And they really appreciated that. It also helped us when we had challenges, when the guidance was constantly changing in the news and what we were hearing from the government. We remained firm and consistent in our policies, and they knew that what we were saying in July of 21 was going to remain in place for January of 22, and they could plan accordingly. And it also helped us when we had people trying to cancel or say, we're not going to do this because you're going to require vaccinations in January 22. No, we will not require vaccinations. And that really helped us making sure that we had that consistency throughout the last couple of years. So the next polling question we have was really about how you engaged on social media and what were you sharing. So I just want to ask you folks what you guys were doing. Obviously, the numbers were challenging over the last couple of years, much more so than we've had in the past. But what were you guys sharing? Oh, interesting. It's a spread all over the place.
Yep. I'm surprised that there were so few that shared bad news.
Yep. So, Chris?
Well, so we had an interesting intersection of sentiment between masks, vaccinations, insistence that we were collecting cell phone numbers so that we could contact trace our attendees. Never mind that we put out a video in 2019 explaining why we were asking for cell phone numbers, because we learned at one of these events that it's a better way to get in touch with people if there's an emergency on the show floor, right? Because nobody looks at their email. But facts be damned. There was some haters out there, and some of them were prominent companies, some were prominent media, and we just went on the offensive. We started punching back, started counterpunching, and we weren't gonna let any lie go unchallenged, and we did it through the association. Many of us did it personally to just stop, and some of the absurd things that were going on. We also got a bunch of prominent exhibitors to give us testimonials, and so as each rumor would come up, like in this case, that Glock's not coming to the show, that we had a testimonial from their COO. So it was a concerted effort. It started to have some effect, especially when we started bringing actual facts and pieces back from 2019 that showed that these were policies that we had in place anyway.
So we did share bad news. And we thought this was really important. We wanted to manage the expectations and let people know what was happening. So when our registration was down 20%, pacing 20% down, we shared, we're down 20%. This is the reason, but okay, know what's happening. It helped with our exhibitors to know what to expect. It helped them to figure out which companies, which staff to bring, how much to produce, how to design their booth. A lot of them have international salespeople. And if we would tell them, okay, right now our international is light, so don't necessarily bring those international salespeople. And all of a sudden we had representatives from 100 companies, 100 countries register for the show. So we put that out there, and then they brought out their international salespeople. We did a lot of fact checking. Every week we were sending out these fact checks, and we made them fun. I don't know where Jess is, but Jess Tyler from MJ Biz, they did a great job last year of doing it really in tongue-in-cheek style. And we thought that was great. And it made it fun, and it basically made everyone read it to do the fact checks and see what they're going to say next. So great job on that. But we did that, and I think a lot of people appreciated that we were honest with them and not sugarcoating what might be happening at the show. And I think it also made them believe us when we talked about our consistent policies. We were being truthful with everybody. The next thing we're going to talk about is exhibitor education. We did a lot of this over the last couple of years, but what I want to hear from you guys is what's one or two words you guys would think about when it comes to exhibitor education that you guys might do? Successful, not, just a couple words that would really describe your exhibitor education right now for your shows.
Sweet.
So it's definitely important. So, and I like that a lot of people are doing it. But I also see words and they're like basic and dead ears. Not great. So for us, we did, prior to COVID, an exhibitor academy for 2 days in Vegas, had 100 exhibitors fly out. Basically, they just had to pay their airfare. We took care of the rest and gave them really deep education of how to perform at the SHOT Show, how to engage people at the SHOT Show. We'd invite buyers out. They do panels on best practices by the buyers. Would be informing the exhibitors what they look for. We'd have media come out, train our exhibitors on what they're looking for. It was great for 2 days. It was also a huge commitment by our partners. It would be a lot of commitment by our staff. But we had one-on-one engagement, strengthen the relationship. But again, it was limited to just 100 companies that might be able to come out. Last 2 years, we obviously had to go online, just like everyone else. Prior to canceling the 21 show, we did 7 webinars in 2020 when most companies weren't even contemplating in-person events. And we did educational webinars, preparing people for the 21 show that we hope to have. We even had 450 exhibitors on one particular webinar, and they were engaged. They were asking questions. They were asking questions about how can we safely produce the show, and they were looking for information. A lot of the information we shared was the information gathered and compiled by people in this room. Freeman, IEEE, CISO, UFI, everyone really contributed over that time period of how you can safely do a show, and we were sharing that, and the exhibitors were eating it up and coming week after week after week to our webinars. And then in 2022, we did 12 webinars. Sorry, in the 21 calendar year for 22, we did 12 webinars. We had over 400 exhibitors on some webinars, but they were all significantly more attended than we've done in the past. You want to talk about what else we did?
Sure. We want to go to the next slide? Or?
The one-on-one.
Oh, the one-on-one with Robin, yes. So as part of the sessions we had Robin do, we bought a package of one-on-one 30-minute counseling sessions. Figured, okay, we'll offer that to some folks. Well, they sold out like real quick. So we added another bundle and another bundle and another bundle. The response from our customers to us investing in their success, trying to make them better exhibitors. And this is all stuff that isn't just going to help them at SHOT Show, right? It's going to help them at every other event that they do, and some are in multiple industries. But the feedback we got, because what's the old saw, like, they won't care until they know how much you care, because we made the decision to invest in our customers, and the feedback was fantastic. And I think we have a word cloud that came from some of Robin's sessions. These are the folks that went to Robin's session, what their post-show comments were.
And this is feedback we got from them after the 22 show. And I can tell you that while we had significant growth, our attendance was down because obviously it was the peak week of Omicron. We had a lot of people registered, but they couldn't make it because of what was happening at home, as well as the international lift. And this was still the feedback we got despite that.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And it's something we'll continue to do and probably expand and build upon. And then, you know, along with that investment, and what I call the secret recipe, right? Like, our partners are amazing. Freeman and the MDG roundtables that were done the whole time that Shauna helped put on, our agency CSG, you know, Caesars, Venetian, just everyone, our security partners. Robin, of course, was a big part of that secret sauce. And then the support we got from IAEE and CISO. I mean, you know, Jeff's company's a member of CISO, so we, you know, get some information, you know, through that. But I mean, you know, David and Catherine were sending us, the association, information, even though we weren't members, which was very helpful. You know, a trade show executive, TSNN, all the information that the community was feeding and trading freely just so that somebody could go. You know what I mean? Somebody could put a conference or an event or a show together. Really helped immensely. And then I can't say enough.
And we want to also mention that, I mean, that's the secret recipe for every show. And take advantage of everyone in this room. Take advantage of the partners in this industry, because one thing that we have seen over the last 2 years is how we all worked together and we got through it, and it's really because we all shared. So everyone in the room has been important.
Yeah, like, you know, when we talking to the guys at SEMA and then watching what Lori and Karen were doing, you know, with CES. I mean, we're all pulling for each other, but just, you know, that free exchange of information, you have a lot of that here and there, but I mean, I really saw a lot more of that during COVID. And I'm very grateful for it. And can you go back? So part of what we did during the uncertain time in the run-up to 21, we started this little newsletter called SHOT Show Insider. And so both our teams would write it, and some of our partners. But it was just trying to give folks some inside baseball into like what was going on, whether it was with Southern Nevada Health District or, you know, Nevada with the mask requirements and the vaccinations, or labor, or what other shows we're doing and things like that. So, and we got a lot of good feedback from that as well, because there's a response mechanism in there. So the level of engagement we were able to do through that newsletter, I think, really paid off for us over the last 2 years.
So that's the findings we want to share. Is there any questions?
Thank you very much. Here's our first question.
Did you do anything similar for the visitors or attendees that you did for the exhibitors?
We did do webinars for the attendees as well, on not just how to navigate the show, but what to expect. COVID protocols we put in place. We did 3 webinars for the 21 show, and then we did 3 more for the 22 show, just specifically targeting the attendees. And I think one of them we had about 1,000 attendees go online to learn about what to expect at the show.
All right, thank you. And now we have a couple questions from Slido.
Did any of the negative feedback on you holding an event during the pandemic make it to mainstream media?
Did any of the feedback?
No. I don't remember hearing anything. We purposefully don't have mainstream media at our show, as you can imagine. So we honestly, no. We kind of try to fly under the radar. It's for that show.
Okay. I have a second question. Who was taking advantage of the one-on-ones?
all size of exhibitors. Not as many large exhibitors, but surprisingly, we had some large exhibitors take advantage of that, but everything from 10 by 10s up to 30 by 30s.
And one thing that we also found over the last couple of years, and I'm sure everyone's seen that, we've seen it in our own industry, there's new people on desks that have never done trade shows before. So we wanted to make sure that those people that are new on their desk and have never been to a trade show before, we're now responsible for building the booth. We gave them an opportunity to learn how to do it so they're prepared before they got there.
Other questions? Back there, please.
Hello. Okay.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks so much for sharing your story. And one of the questions I have is on the counterpunch, the communication counterpunch you were talking about. Did you plan for that? Did you have to invest more in a social media group to help you with that? Or you just said, we're going to fact check and we're going to come at them?
It was such an avalanche, and it just sort of like you have a small snowball, and it keeps snowballing when mistruths about contact tracing and wacky things that they were doing in Nevada, that we just got together and said we got to put a stop to this, and we started doing it through our official channels, and then we started doing it through our personal channels, and then we got some of our exhibitors started to support us. Some influencers, but it was more organic. It was planned from the gather everybody into a room, in this case on a Zoom call, and say, okay, that's it, no more. We're not going to let any mistruth go unchallenged.
And Chris started the hashtag Just Stop.
Just stop. Just stop. The ridiculousness. It was like the ridiculous rumor of the week. That was a regular post.
All right, any other question? Okay, I just want to ask you to, because this is something that I've been talking about at large show roundtables for, I don't know, it could be 10 years. If you said it quickly, I'm not sure it registered with folks. Could you explain how you get rid of an entire product category? Because I believe it's 18 months in advance, and it's got a little bit of legalese.
Yep.
But for any of other that are wall-bound, this is brilliant.
Yeah, so we needed to get more core companies in, and so we looked at about how much square feet of space we needed, and we started looking at categories like camping and which are associated and affiliated. Camping, foods. God, I miss the jerky guys, but the sausage makers and the jerky guys and the smokers, and we just started picking categories that weren't core to us. And those were difficult conversations to have, because we didn't just send them an email, right? We called them, because these are good customers, been exhibiting for a long time, paid their bills on time, never asked us to do anything. They never asked us to teach people to make jerky or, to go fishing or anything like that. They were good customers. But it was a decision we had to make for the good of the show, and that's what helped us to grow the show, because then those 10 by 10s come in, and I know in our industry that just about every company there started out with one person with an idea to try to do something better or differently, and then they become the big companies.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.